Thanks for tuning into a special holiday edition of How's Things, a podcast from the David A. Howe Public Library. I'm Nick Gunning, and today I'm joined by my good friend and constant Christmas companion, Mr. Beau Hutchings. Beau, welcome back.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
This has been an exciting Christmas because you were here in person at the David A. Howe Public Library for the first time in how long? It's been a long time.
Last one was 2019.
2019. So if you're not familiar with Beau's work...
Oeuvre.
Right, yeah, there you go. I knew that's what you were going to say. He's been the Nutcracker Prince 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
Came back this time in sort of an and Martin Sheen as era.
Wait.
As Drosselmeyer. Yeah.
Martin Sheen from 20 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, just like you've made this. It's like now you've returned.
Featuring.
You get the and slot. Yeah.
I was hoping you weren't comparing me to him and Grace and Frankie.
No. Nothing like that. It's just you've reached that exciting point where now it's it's an even bigger deal.
I mean,
I can't believe we got him. And Kirk Douglas and Julie Andrews.
And the Genesee Dance Theater, which is the company that I dance for, they had a post that said, my handle on Instagram is B4Hutchie. B4Hutchie returns to Genesee Dance. I like that.
It was exciting.
My Norma Desmond, it's a return.
Exactly. You get it. And when you came out, I believe there was a swell in the crowd. Maybe I'm making that up, but I don't think so. I think people were excited.
Eye rolls.
Yeah. Oh, this guy. Oh, jeez.
This old hack. This old so-and-so.
Nutcracker, this was the 10th year, and it has become such a local, iconic thing at this point. I mean, it's a thing that people are like,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. It's like people are asking, when is Nutcracker? It's not like we have to be like, hey, just so you know, Nutcracker's happening. So it's like the shop at Maine down here had special Nutcracker themed drinks, and it was Nutcracker season was felt in
I was playing, so I did graduate. I say graduate from the role of the Nutcracker Prince.
Sure.
Uncle Drosselmeyer, who actually creates the Nutcracker and gives it to Clara, the main character of the story. And it's really exciting because I've always wanted to be in what they call the party scene, which is the beginning of the ballet. And so I actually got to be a part of the party scene. And I did hear that they had Nutcracker flavored drinks it's called the shop at Maine.
Shop at Maine, yeah.
So did they have an Uncle Drosselmeyer drink too?
It was just a half a can of ginger ale. But you could get it on ice. You could get it on ice.
Nice. Nice. Well, that's very Christmassy.
Yeah. No, but I am curious though, like how did it compare? Like playing the two roles like on the same stage and everything. Like what did you like? What did you dislike?
It felt more me. I don't know. It was just like since I moved back to Michigan, and we didn't mention that I did actually return to New York State too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Couple of New Yorkers.
That's right. Former Michiganders.
That's right.
And the last few times that we recorded this podcast, I was in Michigan, my hometown of Marshall. Yes. And now I'm in Brooklyn. So I feel like over the past 4 years of being in Michigan, I kind of really owned that uncle role because a lot of my friends have had children and I got to be kind of the fun uncle in Marshall. Yeah. So this was the role that Sarah, the director, had in mind. Was she wanted me to be the fun uncle, and I said, I gotcha. So this just felt like very me. Not that the Nutcracker Prince, the dashing, handsome lead role, was a stretch by any means for me.
No.
That is me, but my soul is fun uncle. So.
Fun uncle.
And it's funny, the role of Uncle Drosselmeyer is usually very mysterious and has an eye patch over the eye and maybe a scarier, creepier role. But luckily, I got to be the fun, pretty uncle.
Actually, I mean, that was a great costume, though. The green blazer and everything. It was a very cool
I know, that was the costumes are incredible for this production.
They were.
We're up in the production value every year, and I'm happy to be back. Happy to be part of that.
I know. I was excited when I heard you were coming back too, and I don't want to embarrass you, but you were great in it. You really were. Like when you came out, you just pulls the eye. Like everybody just wants to look at you, and you're just like every second that you're out there, you just like you're leaving nothing on the table, which has always been true, but it was fun to see again.
Your Venmo's going through soon, so.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Your paid sponsors.
Okay. Yep. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Right.
Yeah. I assume people probably know if they've been listening that Beau and I are old friends, having met in a production of Meet Me in St. Louis Every year I want to figure it out because it's definitely more than 20 years. It's 25, 26, something like that. It's a
Right,
long
because that
time.
was my freshman year of
Yeah.
high school,
High school.
not
High school.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
that far back.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that we met and worked
Yeah.
together, right? And
Yeah.
then Fiddler was after that, obviously, because we'd already
Yes.
established.
This was a
Yeah, because
summer youth theater kind of thing. And so I had done two, I think, before Meet Me in St. Louis.
West Side Story and 42nd Street.
Yeah, West Side Story and 42nd Street. That's it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I know you're Oprah.
Yeah, then we did that and Babes in Arms together. And then
Uh-huh.
Fiddler on the Roof. And is that it? Is that all we've done?
Yeah,
3
I think
shows?
that. Yeah,
That's
I think
stupid.
our contract ended.
That's
Our
stupid. Last year
working
we were
contract
talking
ended.
about doing the producers, and I think we should just do it. You know?
Oh, that would be really
You
fun.
and me. Yeah.
Now that I've made my full return and I'm in my, I'd say featured leading man era.
Yeah.
I'm not quite. I'm still kind of shedding the chorus boy
Sure.
persona, but I've
No, you still
definitely
got it.
my heart and soul is in that
You
and
still got it. You still got
role.
it.
No, I'd happy now that I'm in the same state. I'm just a train ride
Just
away.
pop over. Yeah, just pop over.
Lazy.
What have you been doing to get into the Christmas zone besides the Nutcracker? Like what's on your
Well, the
list?
Nutcracker really helped. I mean, it was fun because since I moved back to New York, I took a 15-foot U-Haul ride from Michigan to Brooklyn. It was about 11 hours,
No
but I
thanks.
definitely packed all of my Christmas decorations.
Okay.
And that was, we don't have a lot of storage. I was just telling you right before we signed on that
Yeah.
each of the rooms in this apartment have a closet, but we don't have any main storage closet in the
Hmm.
main area. So my Christmas decorations, unfortunately, are the extra sort of boxes just laying around. But I knew that moving in the fall, Christmas would be coming. So I just really committed to it. And it's been fun that my roommate, like every time she comes home, it's like a new piece is up and she gets really excited. So it's kind of, what was that show, Trading Spaces with Paige Davis? So
Right.
I like love seeing the reaction when she walks in. And if she
Yeah.
isn't happy, she's a really good actor because she every time is like really excited to see a new thing pop up. So we have like my little Christmas tree that I had in Marshall up,
Yes.
and just been making the space nice and Christmassy here because I will be staying in New York instead of going back to Michigan. So I want to make
Mm,
sure that my space is all set up. But I do
definitely.
have plans to go to the Rockefeller Christmas tree
Oh, that'd be
and
cool.
to do ice skating in Bryant Park and stuff like that. So I'm going to go all full out
I love it.
Christmassy
I
towards
love
the end of
it.
the month. Yeah.
Is there a certain movie or album or like what do you got? I gotta have this for Christmas.
Sure. So, yeah, my album is the same. It's still Aaron Neville's
Okay.
Christmas album. That's what I bust out first. And
White
then
Christmas. I know you got to do White Christmas.
I love the movie White Christmas. I usually
Yeah.
watch that on Christmas Eve.
Right.
And I watched, you know how a lot of artists, and I think they have probably been doing this honestly since the 50s or 60s, whenever they started doing reviews on TV, like Christmas reviews on
Mm-hmm.
TV. Now they're doing specials on streaming. So Sabrina Carpenter did a Christmas special
Okay.
that I think Netflix produced. And so I watched that. And I actually watched the Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie and the Lacey Chabert Christmas movies on Netflix.
Hot Frosty. Did you watch Hot
Yeah,
Frosty?
Frosty, that's
Yeah.
right. I have
Yep.
to say, Lacey Chabert is a great actor.
You think so?
I do,
Julia
yeah.
working for you? Okay.
Yeah, I think she's so natural. She's so real and
Mm-hmm.
grounded, and she was the best part of that movie, and
Yeah, I know.
better actress than our girl Lindsay.
Yeah. Ellie and I were just talking on But Have You Tried about how Hot Frosty was like a weird, like it wasn't a steamy romance kind of thing. It was like
There was no heat.
there's no heat. I know. It's just a dopey guy being like, I fixed your couch.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
was
get it.
too ripped, honestly. Like it just it
Yeah.
wasn't that actor in Schitt's Creek too?
He was in
Or
Schitt's Creek, and actually, you know, Kendra, who Discord bombed us last time to talk
yes,
Vanderpump Rules, he's also in 90210, and so Kendra and I covered the whole of Hot Frosty for a 90210 Christmas special on 902, and here we go. And
How old is he in 90210?
he was in the 2008 reboot.
Hmm.
I was like, this is not a sexy person, and Kendra was like, no, he is, and I was like, I don't think so. I don't see it. I get that he's muscly, but I don't see what's
I
the
think
appeal.
with the images that I saw of him in Schitt's Creek and maybe 90210, I think he was sexier before they made him be Netflix sexy,
I
and then they
see.
went too over. I think they went too extreme into
Yeah.
the like. Who knows the
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did look
All
good
right.
prior to Hot Frosty. So
Okay.
anyway, it was a treat to see Lacey Chabert back on screen, and the gals that I watched with last Wednesday, we all got a kick out of seeing her back. And I actually liked the Lindsay Lohan one better. I think it's better produced. Like, you could just tell the budget
Is,
for the
is
two
that the one
films.
with Kristen Chenoweth?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All
and
right.
she's always a treat. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, which, segues into my next favorite Christmas movie, Wicked.
Oh yeah. You're on what? 3 times now.
Yeah, I
Is
saw
that
it
right?
three
You've seen three
times.
times.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they do the sing along on Christmas Day, which I'm trying to decide if I have the energy for. So
Ooh. Ooh.
I don't
That would
need to
be,
sing.
yeah, that would be an undertaking. I don't know. I don't know. I intend to see it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Fair enough. Fair
I got to
enough.
mark
It's
it
out
off
there
the
for
list.
you.
I
You
love
better
the
hurry.
soundtrack. I mean, the original Broadway cast. I listened to that so many times.
Have you listened to the movie soundtrack?
No, I kind of didn't want to until I saw the movie.
You see it.
You
That's
know,
fair. Because
yeah,
there's a fun little spoiler in there. I don't know if you know any of the cameos that happen or where
I
they
don't.
happen in the
No, I
movie.
don't. Mm-mm.
I'd say hold off listening to it until you see it, because it'll give it away.
That is the plan. Yeah, I feel suitably Christmassy. I think it comes and goes, but I think Christmas is in the air.
What have you been doing that's Christmassy?
Oh gosh, let's see. Well, I've been watching some Christmas comedies that were fun. We have not watched Christmas Vacation yet, but I showed my son that for the first time last year, and he was like rolling on the floor laughing.
Aw.
So we might do that again, and we have plans for Muppet Christmas Carol and mostly Christmas music. I made a pretty sick Christmas playlist that we've been playing along to. So I think
All
that's been
standards or
the most of it.
some Mariah
No,
Carey?
it's no, yeah, there's some Mariah Carey on there. It's a pretty eclectic mix, I think. I was sort of like artists that I like new and old. There's some Olivia Rodrigo on there, there's some Paul McCartney. Like it's all
Okay.
over the place. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of the Christmas playlist, and we've been getting a lot of use out of that. Got a Christmas puzzle we're gonna do, so
How many pieces? 1,000.
it's a three. No, it's a 300 piecer. We've settled on 300 as if we can finish it in one night, we'll do it. But if it's a multiple nighter,
It's
no,
not going to happen.
not gonna happen. No. So I read some Christmas Archie comics, as you know I must every
Yes.
year. So I did that. That's not all the Christmas reading I did, though. I don't know about you, but I got a nice cozy book.
Definitely.
Are you ready to dive into our Cozy Bros 5 Christmas book club right now?
I'm so ready, I
Okay.
think. Sexy new book club.
All right. So announce to the nice people what you chose this year, because you've been on a weird streak. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened over the
Word
5
worse.
we've done together, the couple that we did with Eric back on the All the Book show. You've really picked some doozies, and some of them really stuck with me. What did you do this time?
Well, I think last year another witchy one, or
It
was
was
that?
witchy. No, it was witchy
I
last
went
year.
back to the witches because
Yeah.
I had done a Hanukkah story, and then I wanted to try witch. So this year I was like, oh, I wanted to go to a bowling alley. I wanted to do some kind of bowling alley mystery. Like, I've been really
Oh,
into bowling again since I
that's
got back
right.
to the city.
You're on a league.
Yeah, I was on a league, and my team won first place.
I really want to be in one of these situations where you are with strangers and you're like, oh, maybe I'll bowl. And then people see that you're like an amazing bowler. Because I think that's such a bait and switch. Because I don't know. I don't know what it would like if you just said to somebody, picture a great bowler. Would they picture you? I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
It has served me
I
well, and
bet
like
it
this
has.
odd thing that I was kind of forced into as a
Yeah,
child, with my parents being bowling alley
of
owners.
course. Of
I
course. Marshall
totally
Lanes.
resented it
Yeah.
and took it for granted, but now it has definitely served me well. So when I
Yeah.
joined this league for social reasons, I definitely drew a little crowd, which was kind
Yeah.
of cool.
Yeah. You're like, oh,
And
I just pick this up. I just throw the ball this way. Is that how
I
you
do
do it?
play. I
Do I
play a
kick
little
it?
coquettish.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it.
I play coy
I
and
like
play
it.
dumb. I'm really good at that. No, I decided when I moved back to the area, I was like, I need something social that I'm good at,
Yeah.
and that I can still feel confident and still try and connect with people. So I thought
Yeah.
bowling,
Bowling.
and it ended up working out. And the only thing is like being the top league, the
Oh
top team
my.
winning is a lot of
Yeah.
pressure because
Oh,
each week you
heavy's
have
the
to
head.
sustain that.
Heavy's the head.
I know, and I think this next round that I sign up for, I just wanna bowl. Let
Sure.
me win.
For the
Yeah.
love of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
love of the
The love
bowl.
of the game.
You wanted a bowling mystery for this time. But
Yep.
did you find one?
No,
Okay.
I think I found some other mysteries, but it wasn't around Christmas, and I didn't honestly search that hard. So
Oh, okay.
then I came upon kind of like definitely length was an issue, and I wanted to listen to it on the train ride going from New York City up to Rochester.
Okay.
So I landed on a Agatha Christie story.
Well, this is
And
maybe your most highbrow choice.
yeah, I was telling you that the book I chose was a little bit more flowery with language. So
Yes.
I think I caught all the details, but I also thought back, I was like, I don't think we've done an Agatha Christie, the two of us
No.
yet.
No.
We've talked about her books quite a bit, but we've not
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
dissected one.
I was in a production of The Mousetrap. That was one of my favorite
Right.
things I
I
got to do.
remember
That
you
was
telling
super
me
fun.
that.
And I just read because we were in London earlier this year, and we went to like the Agatha Christie Memorial and stuff. And so I was like, well, I have to get an Agatha Christie book. So I got one called The Sitterford Mystery, which is kind of a classic. There's a snowstorm, but there was a murder. How did this happen? So not Christmassy, but it was a snowed-in kind of mystery, and I did quite enjoy that. And I have read the Tommy and Tuppence books by Agatha Christie. There's 5 of those, so that's kind of the extent to my Agatha Christie knowledge. Had
Well, I
you
knew
read one before?
no, but I knew that as soon as I dropped her name, you would have like a whole litany of like information. So you're gonna have to
Oh,
help me with this one.
oh, sure. Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
recruit you. But
Okay.
it's funny that you mentioned that it was a snowy mystery in your book, which is probably more Christmassy than mine even is. Because now
Okay.
that I think about it, like she doesn't even mention the word Christmas in it. So I don't
Oh,
know how this is
okay.
actual Christmas tragedy, but I'm just guessing it happened around Christmas.
So it's called The Christmas Tragedy.
Called the Christmas
The
tragedy. Yeah,
Christmas Tragedy.
a Christmas tragedy.
So probably some, publisher or like magazine publisher was like, throw Christmas in the title. We got to move this.
Yeah,
We got to move
it,
this
it
turd.
it said it was first published in January of 1930.
Okay. I read one, and there's a bit of a backstory here. I read one called The Christmas Mystery. So I wanted the least interesting title I could find, the most generic, just fill in the blanks. Are you familiar with James Patterson?
Yes.
Okay, James Patterson. I don't know. I guess depending on how you look at it, either he ruined publishing by publishing 1,000 books a year, or he's done this great thing where he lends his name to all these co-authors who can get their works published because they're under this James Patterson banner. So in the flurry of all these James Patterson books, and probably it is like 5 books a month that he's putting out.
Oh.
Back in 2016, they decided they were going to do this new imprint called the James Patterson Bookshot. And it was just really a novella. It's like a little novel that the hook was like, read it on the train, read it on your commute, read it in line at the grocery store. It was supposed to be just these quick bite books.
Oh, gotcha.
And so this is a bookshot of the Christmas mystery. And as I went to put it in Goodreads, which is just a book cataloging app that I like, helps me keep things straight, it was like Detective Luke Moncrief #2. And I was like, #2? Well, I can't read #2. And since they're short, they're probably 150 pages. The audiobooks, I think, were like 4 hours or something. I was just like, well, I'll just read the first one first. So I did. I read French Kiss. It's about Luke Moncrief, who's like sort of a wealthy Parisian cop who somehow ends up as a detective in New York with the NYPD. And that one's okay. It's just the tagline is "Bonjour, detective. Now watch your back." So I read French Kiss. And then I read The Christmas Mystery, which is the one that ostensibly takes place at Christmas, though we'll get into that. And then in the last couple days, I was like, well, there's only 3 of them, so I might as well just go the distance. And I read French Twist, the third.
So French Kiss, French Twist.
Yeah, that's right. French
Okay.
Kiss, French Twist, and The Christmas Mystery. So
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you can tell which one of those got their name changed, probably.
Now, do you think reading all 3 really helped you kind of form your story for today and kind of gives you a little bit of context?
I am glad that I read the first one, because in the first one he's kind of targeted by an enemy, and a couple people in his life, like contacts, are murdered, and then his girlfriend is murdered. And the murder of his girlfriend is kind of an important aspect of book 2. But each one kind of sets up this stuff, and the next one doesn't really, Like there's this dude in prison who's targeting him, and by book 2, it's like, well, glad that's over. And then things happen in Christmas Mystery that seem like, oh, that's a real paradigm changer. And then in the third book, it's like, whatever. So I don't know.
Well, they only
It's
have 150 pages. It's
you're
just a
right.
shot.
I'm asking too much. I'm asking too
You
much.
have, but you have a whole scope of the whole world, so you
That's
have
right.
context.
This is by James Patterson and Richard DeLallo. Came out in 2016, and it is book 2 of Detective Luke Moncrief's series. And here we go. So Luke Moncrief and Kay Burke. So just the letter K. And every time he refers to her, he always calls her Kay Burke. And she always calls him Moncrief. They keep it profesh. You know what I mean? They're partners, and yeah, in different settings, would they be interested in each other? Maybe. But that's not relevant here. It's not appropriate. It wouldn't be appropriate. So we start, and they are undercover. They're working undercover security at Bloomingdale's leading up to Thanksgiving. And I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if the NYPD is working undercover security at stores. Do you think?
Undercover security, so do you think they're like in sales associate garb, or are they
Yeah,
just...
I think they're just walking around, and they do snag these 2 teen shoplifters, and they're like, crime doesn't pay. And that's sort of it for the prologue. It's just kind of like, here's what they're doing. They caught these crimes. Look out. So at this point, it's almost Thanksgiving, and Luke, or Moncrief, as he's called, is missing his girlfriend, Dahlia, who was murdered by his nemesis in book 1, as I mentioned. He doesn't really care so much about Thanksgiving because it's an American holiday, and he may live here, but he's French through and through. But he finds out that his partner, Kay Burke, isn't doing anything on Thanksgiving either, and he says, hey, why don't we plan to spend it together? But again, platonic, all above board, just a couple of friends sharing a meal. The day arrives. He's got this huge spread. She is so impressed by his Madison Square loft, by the food. Finally, he admits the food was catered. And they're having this lovely meal together until their boss, Inspector Elliott, calls them with an assignment that has to happen right now.
Oh man, right in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner.
Right in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. I know.
In the middle of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade too.
Probably.
Yeah, because honestly, that's he's at Madison Square. Like
that's what it says.
So that's like,
he said he had a Madison Square loft. Does that make sense?
Okay. That's right up by the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That sounds like a nightmare.
They didn't really talk about the parade. That didn't really come up.
He's working at Bloomingdale's on basically near Black Friday, and he's in the middle of Macy's Thanksgiving. He likes chaos.
Yeah, I guess so.
He likes American chaos.
Yeah. All right, so give me a little setup on the Christmas tragedy.
Okay, so I had to listen to this a couple times because, as I mentioned, the language of Agatha Christie is just very detailed and flowery. And it was written in the 30s, which explains it. But so basically, something to know about this story, A Christmas Tragedy, is a short story by Agatha Christie, which was first published in issue 273, January 1930. So in 1932, the story was gathered and published as the 10th story in the short story collection, The 13 Problems. It is preceded by The Four Suspects and followed by The Herb of Death. So there's a lot of numbers in there.
I guess there
Very
are.
confusing.
I see that the original title was The Hat and the Alibi. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that would actually, that's a lot more. Yeah. Actually, no, come to think of it, I can see where the Christmas came in. Thank you for reminding me that. So,
all right.
Okay, so at the dinner, the very beginning of the story takes place at a dinner party hosted by Colonel Arthur Bantry. Does that name sound familiar?
Sure doesn't. No.
These not characters that come up a lot? Okay.
I don't think so, no.
All right, it's hosted by Colonel Bantry and his wife, and so everybody takes turns to present a mystery, like you do at dinner parties. The fourth mystery is narrated by Miss Marple.
Miss Marple. Oh, sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good old Miss Marple. She tells a story about a time when she knew intuitively that a man she had met was about to murder his wife.
Oh, she knew
it. She just knew it.
Okay.
She has the intuition. So there's about 6 folks that are at this dinner party, and this is a story within a story, obviously. And it starts with Colonel Bantry, and he's like basically like, all right, the men are done talking. Now, ladies, can you please contribute something? Like, it just sounds very mansplaining. He's like, surely you women have something to say. It just sounds like the men are just exhausted after talking so much, and now they're giving the women a bone. It's very old school. And of course, all the ladies, such as Dolly and Jane, they're both like, "Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm so shy. I have nothing to contribute. I have nothing interesting." They're like, he's like, "Come on, Jane Hellier, don't you have something interesting to say?" She's like, "Only stories about men giving me flowers and presents." So it's like very much we're very much playing into
We're
these
sticking with
like
the lines. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And then it comes to Miss Marple, and she's like, "Oh, it couldn't possibly, oh, don't make me." And she's like probably the most qualified to tell a story in
Sure.
general. She's like, "I think I remember this one time." She's like, she starts to tell starts to tell a story that has nothing to do with where we're heading, and it's a total non sequitur. And she's talking about a couple that, like, had an issue, and then she's like, "Oh, but that reminds me, I did have this one moment at a health spa where this man clearly wanted to kill his wife." It's like, okay, so this story has been brewing. Like, you've had this story. You didn't just remember this.
Hmm.
She's
Hmm.
always playing coquettish,
She's
like I
been
do
waiting for it
with bowling.
with bowling. So bowling is connected.
So she goes in to tell the story. Now, you'll have to help me a little bit. There's a lot of things that sound familiar in this world that I've never heard of. She talks
Okay.
about something called like the hydro something or other. I feel like it was called the hydroplane, which to me sounded like an airplane, which to
Yeah.
me sounded like maybe a ship, but I think it's
Okay.
actually a health spa. I'm thinking it's
Oh,
I'm thinking she's talking about a time where she went to a health spa. These are obviously wealthy
okay.
people in the upper class of England, and
Gotcha.
so they have funny names for stuff. So she goes to tell a tale about a man named Mr. Sanders and his wife Gladys Sanders. I can't remember Mr. Sanders' names. I'm just going to call him
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah,
Sanders.
I think that's good.
Okay. So she says that she spent some time at a health spa with, again, I think like 6 people. So there seems to be a theme with rich people where they only gather in sixes
Right.
at either dinner parties or, random spas in the middle of the woods. And she said that, yes, I do have a good story that involves me having intuition about a man wanting to murder his wife, which, a standard story when you're
Yeah.
with a group of people. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
he wants to kill her, he wants to, like, very clearly, this happens a lot in her
Hmm.
world. So it's hooking the people right away, and they're all going to have to kind of be in on the storytelling as well, because I think she's gonna ask them questions throughout, like, now, what do you think of this? So we're
Mm.
setting up, like, yes, I do have a story, and it's going to be way better than all 3 of your men's stories. So we're going to go to the hydro something or other in the countryside of England, where there's a health spa that she witnesses a murder.
The Keston Spa Hydro.
Thank you.
There you go. Yep.
So the
Yep.
word spa is in
It
there.
is in it, as is hydro. So, you were close. Okay, so she witnesses a murder. All right.
Yes.
So Moncrief and Kay Burke get this call from Inspector Elliott. They have, we got to drop dinner. And they don't really want Elliott to realize that they were having Thanksgiving together, because that seems a little,
Boundaries are being crossed.
boundaries. Exactly. So they roll into the station and they find that there's a swanky gallery, the Namenworth Gallery. Apparently, they're under suspicion for dealing with forgeries. Now, why that was a Thanksgiving Day, drop everything and come in here, and why they're talking to like just beat detectives about forgeries, I don't know. But this is what happens. So they come in, and apparently the Cranes, this couple, the Cranes, who own the gallery now, sold a fake Klimt, that's the painter, to Barney Wexler, who is a problem. So like maybe they could have gotten away with other people, but this dude's real persnickety. He's mad. He thinks they did it on purpose. He won't play ball, and he's starting to kind of blow the whole thing up. And so Luke decides he's going to finish his dinner. So they're going to go back. They're going to have dinner. They're going to finish their dinner. And he's going to call his art world friends, because he is both NYPD detective who is also French.
He's French, yeah.
Yeah, and he's also a very wealthy man about town.
Of course.
So there's a lot at play. So the next day, he drops by J. Pocker, a fancy frame shop, and begins his inquiry, just kind of finding out, are you hearing things? Are people bringing things in? Are you seeing forgeries? What's going on? He makes his way to the Namenworth Gallery, which is closed, but there is a Monet that he can see in the window. So he's looking at the Monet, and a security guard is like, oh yeah, that one's been getting a lot of attention. And so he's kind of getting the impression that, all right, there's a lot of attention on this gallery. They're moving a lot of like high-end pieces, what's real, what's not. But then he's like, you know what? It's Black Friday. I got to do some shopping. And that's what he does. He buys some antiques. He buys some Ferragamo Nikes. And then he learns that Ramona Dunlap, a.k.a. Baby D, a famed gossip columnist, has been murdered.
Oh no, that's got to be related to Wexler. That's got to be related to the forgeries.
I
It's
think so. I think so.
all tied together.
I think you're picking up on it. All right. What about Miss Marple? What's she doing?
Okay, so we're back at we're on our way to the spa, and something that
Okay.
she notices, she's like, okay, so like basically she has a great instinct for men that want to kill their wives. Like I'm guessing this is a pattern in this
Okay.
world. Like it's just there's treachery abound.
Mm-hmm.
So she said there was this one moment where I think they're like on the train on the way to the Hydro Spa, and
Okay.
she meets the Sanders there, and there's a moment where they're on the stairs, and oh, he accidentally bumps into Mrs. Sanders, and she tumbles down the stairs, and she was like, "That wasn't no accident." She's like, "Cause this
Mm,
dude was like in the Marines, and or like he was like in some sort of like he used to work on
right.
some sort of ship, and like he has better balance than that. Like he is
Sure.
not gonna fall, but he sure played it off and made it look like it was an accident. So
Mm-hmm.
she had his number right there. She
Right
was
from
like,
the
I
beginning.
don't buy this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, I'm on to him. But she's like, this happened before in the story that she started to tell before this, where she was like, I like had a moment where I knew that a woman's husband was trying to kill her, and I told the woman, and she didn't believe me. So basically, she's like, I'm staying out of this one. I learned my lesson. Like
Hmm.
I can't just be inserting myself into people's marriages and just say your husband's gonna wants to kill you and then they're not going to. So she's like, I'm not gonna do that
Okay.
again.
Okay, but maybe also then is there some blood on her hands if she's getting these feelings and not acting on them?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely. I don't know that that last one came to full fruition where he
Sure.
actually did it, but
Sure.
this one definitely she has regrets
Okay.
because she was right. So,
Yeah.
and she kind of goes to say she starts the story off saying like I was right. Like this guy does end up killing the wife,
Mm-hmm.
by the
Mm-hmm.
way. So there's not really like that's not the surprise at the end. There's a slight twist at the end.
Oh,
So
yeah,
because
she does
she's
that
just like
sometimes.
it's interesting the way that she even kind of prefaces the story. She prefaces it by saying, like, I have a story to tell, but I'm afraid I'm not going to get the details right. Because one can't always remember every single detail. So she's already kind of setting up the fact that, like, um, I, I'm going to be missing certain important details and I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to be right. It's just strange. Just tell the story, Miss Marple. Like,
Yeah.
stop setting it up.
She's trying to manage their expectations. She's trying to get
Yeah,
them
that's
to
exactly it.
underestimate her.
Yes. Yeah.
Clever girl.
But she still knows she's going to blow it out of the water because this is a good story. So she is on the train. He bumps into her. She notices this interaction and she's like, I should probably pull this woman aside and just be like, I don't trust this man. So she's like, what I'm going to do is when we get to the spa, I'm just going to befriend her and get close to her and get in
Yeah.
more information because I need to know for sure the details of their relationship and to see if my instincts are right. So when they arrive to the spa, there's some other rich folks there that they're all cozied up for a while. And I don't know how long they spend there, but it's so wild because, like, in the matter of, like, I would say a week, there's two deaths
Mm-hmm.
at this spa.
Jeez.
One is the hall porter
Sure.
who dies from like some sort of infection or something, and then another one is this
Ooh.
maid who dies from like some sort of quick sickness. So like there's two people that are that die in the matter of just that little stint at the
Wow.
spa, which seems like a lot. And so she's like, they always say, and you know this, Nick,
Okay.
when there's two deaths, there's always going to be a third.
I do know that actually. That's a thing that happens. Yeah.
Oh, you just know that that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
she
It's
keeps
around the
saying that.
corner.
She's like, where there's two, there's three.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, she's like, Gladys, you're
Yeah.
next. She knew it.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
right.
Maybe don't buy a whole gallon of milk. You know what I mean? You're not, just think
Yeah,
about
just,
it.
just the half gallon will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of old broads, Baby D, who is now
Baby
dead. Baby D, baby
Ramona.
dead now at this point. She had apparently married a millionaire husband and she was doing quite well in her retirement. And so, she's a wealthy gal about town, and this is well known. Moncrief and Kay Burke arrive at the apartment, and Inspector Elliot is there, and he's like, look around, man. And she was known for a very impressive art collection, and most of it is gone. Things just aren't where they should be. So it's like, okay, well, that seems probably like what we're talking about here. And there is a pair of forgeries. There are paintings there, and he's like, well, those are fake. Because, again, French, man about town, he knows.
He knows.
He can spot a forgery. So that's not great. And then we return the next day, though, the forgeries are also gone. So they've been moved like post crime. So I don't really see the point of that.
How
But,
are people getting in there during a crime
well,
scene?
yeah,
Just
that's the
you
question,
wait.
isn't it? So Moncrief is asking that question exactly. He's like, how are people having access to what's supposed to be secure? So he interviews George, the doorman, and he learns about a surly driver named Preston Parker Simon, who was recently fired. He recently was not employed by Baby D anymore. And it turns out Preston Parker Simon was booked through the Domestic Bliss Agency, and he was jockeying for a full-time gig with Baby D, but she didn't want that. But they come to realize he was probably the last one to see her alive, so that puts a lot of suspicion on Preston Parker Simon. So he's like, well, something's going on in this building. And the next thing he does is interviews Angel Corrido from the maintenance crew. He slips him a 50, and Angel's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't trust that Preston Parker Simon guy. He just seems sketchy, and he would tip the doorman heavily whenever there was a delivery from the Namenworth Gallery. So something about the gallery and making deliveries, and there was money changing hands, and so there's a lot of suspicion
Why
right
is
here.
the driver tipping?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The driver
So
tips.
he's jockeying for a full-time position, but like on staff, not necessarily as a driver. Like maybe he's
Like,
trying to
yeah.
be more of an assistant position for Baby D.
Yeah, and so for whatever reason, he's tipping the staff who's at the apartment where she lives when these deliveries come through. So that's suspicious right away.
Oh, gotcha.
Kay Burke attempts to track down Simon, and the agency has oh, we can track his car. So they track him to the Four Seasons. This is the last time the agency is relevant or mentioned. It just kind of disappears from the story that he had an employer. So, but it's fine.
We only
Whatever.
have the 150 pages.
Yeah, it's true. So they speak to Simon, and he says, "Oh yeah, well, I already quit the last time. By the last time I drove her, I had already quit, and it was fine. He was just helping her through Thanksgiving, and then he already has another gig, so don't even worry about it." And Simon's like, "But anyway, if you need anything more, here's my card." So Simon, the driver, gives Moncrief this fancy, old school calling card that has all his information on it. And Moncrief's like, "Well, that's weird for a driver who works for a service to have his own personal, fancy calling card." Also, Simon has been speaking with a British accent, but Moncrief is like, that's not a British accent. That's a Gwyneth Paltrow accent.
Yeah.
He's just,
Larry
he's,
Baldwin.
he's just pronouncing things murkily, and he's using phrases that if he were really British, he would not be saying things that way. So they do some digging, and they learn that his real name is Rudy Brunetti. He's from New Jersey. He's an out-of-work actor who'd also worked for Ralph Lauren and the French consulate. So he's got a lot of connections. Okay. His name is Beau Hutchings. Let me see.
I know the type.
Yeah.
Don't trust him.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. So now they know that this Preston Parker Simon is actually Rudy Brunetti from New Jersey.
Wow. I mean, this guy is just, there's a lot. New York City's a hustle. It's a hustle economy. I don't blame Simon or Rudy for having 5 million jobs and a calling card. You gotta hustle. And he's trying to get a full-time position, and Baby D's not taking him on. So you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
Anyway, so back at the hydro spa, or the spa hydro, they're gathered in the drawing room, just chatting, and it's funny because Miss Marple mentions that since there's been 2 deaths already, she's like, when people die, right away. Mm-hmm. She's like, we know there's only a few people at the spot anyway. So it's the second they smell death, basically, they're like, oh, another one dropped. Yep. So they're all just gossiping. They're like, did you hear the maid this time? And so they know right away. They're like, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And so they're in the drawing room, kind of the ladies are gathered gossiping by the fire. And so she's got Gladys Sanders there, who is the newlywed, and she learns that Gladys is they're not very wealthy. She and her husband, they're newlywed, but Gladys, they're living off of her income. They don't really say what she does, but I know that she's also got sort of an inheritance coming.
Oh, so
definitely a motive, or there's definitely a benefit, I guess, to marrying her.
Yes.
But they don't get any capital right away, so it's just kind of sitting there in some sort of trust. But oddly, they've already arranged their wills. So while they're kind of newlywed, they've already arranged who's gonna get.
That's really forward thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
responsible.
progressive relationship. They're just, they know
Yeah.
nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Like forget what is it called when you get
Oh, prenuptial.
a
Yeah.
prenup? Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like let's cut that out. Let's just go right to the wills
Yeah.
because we're not getting divorced. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
divorce
No,
you.
no, we're in it. We're in it. But
Yeah, but
eventually,
if the staff is dropping like flies,
yeah.
and we know that death's coming three,
Yep.
any one of us could be next.
That's true. So let's get that signed.
Let's get our ducks in a row here. So Miss Marple learns the information she wanted to know, which is like, okay, well, that's going to give a great pause for any upcoming death that's probably
Hmm.
going to happen
Hmm.
to you, lady. And she's still like, should I tell her? Should I not tell her? She's like, I'm just not, I still don't feel like I have enough information. So like,
Right.
she's like, let's leave this be. Let's gossip about the dead people already, and let's just continue on.
Yeah.
So Miss Marple has her doctor come to her room because she's a rich lady who can't be bothered, and she's like talking to him about. She's like, "Should I tell the doctor that this lady's gonna die?" Probably. She's like, "No, because I still don't have enough information." Like she is just dead set. Like they just love worrying about other people's problems.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because then the doctor's like, "And by the way, did you know that a few hours ago the maid died too?" And she's like, "Yeah, we all know." Like.
Yeah. We know. We know.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for hours.
Yeah.
Like we knew the second it happened, which is just strange.
It is strange.
So we have Gladys kind of giving their background information. She's gotten some steely looks from Mr. Sanders and some encounters, I'd say, that are less than savory. And she
Mhm.
just doesn't trust the guy. Like she's got great instincts, great intuition, and Meanwhile, Gladys, the wife, is in wedded bliss. Like she doesn't expect anything. She's like, I just don't want to rain on this girl's really. Like I just don't want to ruin her love
Yeah.
bubble right now. So let's see what happens. We just got here. We just got here like a week ago. Like let's just let me cool my jets on this one. I don't want to make
Mhm.
the same mistake I made last time. So that's where we're at. We've just had the doctor visit. We've gotten that information, and then we'll be moving into the night of the murder next.
Okay. Well, our heroes, Kay Burke and Moncrief, really they're onto something with Simon/Rudy, and they're like, we just got to know more about this guy. So it's a good old fashioned stakeout. They're following him around. They're going from place to place. What's he doing? What's his day about? Finally, they catch him handing off a painting to Angel Corrido, who was the maintenance guy back at the apartment, who said that, Rudy had been tipping the doorman with these deliveries anyway. So now it's kind of like they're double crossing each other.
But they're not at the apartment building?
They're not at the apartment. Yeah, we're at somewhere else. So something's going on. And there's a suspicion of drugs. They see something pass between them and they think, oh, this is drugs. So they try to get into this other building where this is happening. And they end up arresting the doorman because they suspect of drugs as well. His name is Peter Lind. He has a Danish accent. He was in the Danish Royal Navy. I don't know why that's relevant, but it's what I'm told, and so I'm passing it on to you.
Thank you.
But also, yeah, he definitely has drug charges, and if he gets arrested for drugs right now, this will be a problem for him. So they see that Simon/Rudy has 3 identical black Escalades that he's been driving around in the garage. So they're like, okay, so something here with driving old ladies, paintings, drugs, something's going on. And Burke is like, okay, well, this has gone beyond the scope of our assignment. Kay Burke, thank you. And she's like, we have to call Inspector Elliott because this is a much bigger deal than we thought it was. And Moncrief is like, no. We can't pull them into this yet. I need to figure this out. We need to just stick with this till we know what's going on. And then as soon as we know what's going on, yeah, we'll bring in, the higher ups and everything. But right now, let's keep the circle tight.
Yeah, they're onto something. And I think that would just too many cooks in the kitchen would confuse it. And I'm with
get out of my kitchen. You know what I mean? Is what there's can't take it.
Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Perot is right with that one. What's his name?
Moncrief.
Moncrief.
Luc Moncrief.
Luc Moncrief.
I have to tell you too that I'd sort of half and halved these. I listened to some on audiobook and then I would read a couple of chapters and then catch up in the audiobook. And the audiobook reader, I don't know if he thinks he's doing a French accent, but he's not. He's definitely not. So it's just like every once in a while. And also the elements of the story, like why is he French? I don't know. I never quite figured that out. Eventually things take place in France, but it's not like, oh, because you're French. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
just
maybe there's something sophisticated about French and
I guess
the French but also like I don't know, why not British? British has an easier accent to like
I guess.
take on
I
an
don't know.
Audible.
I don't
Speaking
know.
of readers, the
Yeah.
reader for A Christmas Tragedy, he started to kind of, I don't want to be rude, but he was like annoying me because he'd be like, and then Miss Marple would say, and then she would do, and everything the end of the sentence, it would go up.
Oh.
It was really overwrought, but very consistent. I have to give him that.
Okay.
Like every
All right.
sentence ended the same way, and it was just very affected.
Yeah,
So
I've heard readers like that. That's no good.
I have his name, but I'm not going to blast him today. So we're back at the hydro spa, or the spa hydro, and we've just gotten the information that there is quite a motive for the husband. So we're going into the evening hours, and Gladys is leaving to go nearby to go play bridge with some friends, and the husband is going to the billiard. So it sounds like he's not a very trustworthy guy if he's going to the
Sure.
billiard. We know what
Yeah, the
that kind of,
billiards. Come on.
yeah, the connotation that the billiard players have.
Sure.
And so it's 6:15, and Gladys is heading back to the hydro. And she gets to the hydro about 6:30 and goes up to her room, and nobody sees her enter or anything like that. They think maybe she went up a side way, da 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 da. And the husband comes back with two very sus billiard players that Miss
Oh,
Marple really doesn't get a good. She says that she has a definite interaction with the two of them, and they're rough and tumble. We'll
okay.
just call them rough and tumble.
Gotcha.
And
All right.
so they decide to go. Mr. Sanders goes up to his room and cries out, and everybody comes running, and there is Gladys laying on the floor, dead as a doornail.
Whoa.
Third death. Miss Marple was right. They come in
That's
threes.
the third.
She's laying face down, and she's wearing her travel outfit, and her
Oh.
hat is covering her head, and so she's just face down. And Miss Marple goes to check her hand, and it's cold as ice. She's dead. So she's laying there, and Mr. Sanders goes to touch his wife or whatever, and she says, "Ah!" Miss Marple stops that we mustn't touch the scene of the crime, even though this bitch touched
Sure.
her hand.
To
I
touch
was
everything.
like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
is Miss Marple like?
Yeah.
She's guilty. Miss Marple's
Yep.
guilty. So Miss Marple does like a casing of the
There's
room to make
fingerprints
sure.
all over the place.
I mean, and who's? Yeah, come on.
Does anyone know a
So
Jane Marple? Apparently, she touched everything.
God, she would be so annoying. I'd be
Yeah.
like, lady, if my husband's gonna kill me, let me figure it out. Like, just leave me
Right.
alone. So stop meddling.
This conversation is killing me actively.
Yeah, I'd rather he kill me to put me out of my
I'll take my
misery.
chances.
So she's Miss Marple's like casing the place. There's a little balcony there, which is suspect too. Like you
All
should
right.
never, there's a lot of attention drawn to the balcony. Like the murderer obviously went in and out of the balcony. Like we kind of know where they entered from. So they have to go down and they have to report this. So everybody has to leave the room. They have to go get the manager. And there's a very specific order because they're very used to murders in this house. There's
Of
a very
course.
specific order in which you need to call the police and have them come and document
Okay.
and all that. And so there's a bit of a lag time there though, because they take a lot of time in the room. And then when they go down to the manager, there's just things aren't going the way they're supposed to go. So there's a little bit of mystery between the time in which they find the body to like when the police actually come and start reporting.
Okay.
Eventually, the police get there, and the detective, who I thought would be Detective Poirot, right? Are they ever in
Yeah.
the same story, Miss
Oh
Marple and Detective
boy,
Poirot?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, they don't say his name. They say
Okay.
detective, but they don't say Detective Poirot, which would have been kind of cool. But it's a short story, so they're not going to waste that
Yeah.
relationship on a short story. So the detective's in there, and he's taking notes and everything, and they comes time for them to question Miss Marple. Miss Marple
Hmm.
did note that when the husband ran to the body, he seemed very distressed. So she's like, he is a good actor because remember, he acted like he didn't push her down the stairs and that it was an
Right.
accident. So he's
Yeah.
very good at
Yeah.
acting. She's
He's a good actor.
so we have the detective all set up, ready to kind of take notes, ready to hear some stories and kind of figure out who done it.
Yeah. Okay. Back in New York City, Kay Burke is trying to get Moncrief to go to Elliot, and he still won't. He's like, just give me a little more time. We need to roll in on this Namenworth gallery, and we need to see if we can get to the bottom of it. So, like, you dress up as a fancy lady and go in there and just kind of see what you can figure out. We'll go in together. We'll kind of suss it out. And they go through looking at this stuff, and then they kind of are like, well, we have so much money and so many paintings. And the Canes at the Namenworth Gallery are like, oh, well, maybe we could show them, the good stuff if they really want to spend some money. So you get a sense that they have a secondary business of maybe some more high profile, maybe not so clean things going on in the back room. So they suss that out, but then Burke is like, okay, I put on a costume for you. I do not want to do this anymore. I'm out. So if you're going to go rogue, you do your thing, but I'm not going to do it. So Moncrief is like, okay, fine. Then I will go solo. And he's following Simon/Rudy. And eventually he sees Rudy, who we all thought was Simon, with the Canes. There's a whole thing with Rudy and the Canes and the Namenworth Gallery and the old ladies with their paintings. And Moncrief is like, okay, I got it. So Rudy has been the middleman between the shady gallery owners and the people who they think are soft marks who have these paintings just in a bedroom somewhere, right? And so they realize Moncrief is there, and people just start shooting. It becomes like a quick shootout.
Oh, God.
And it's like, uh-oh, Moncrief is penned in. He can't escape. And boom, Kay Burke shows up, saves the day. She didn't go to Elliot after all. She doubled down on Moncrief, and she came back to help him. And that's pretty much the end of this story.
So it was Rudy all along.
Well, yes. I'll put a button on it when you tell me a little bit more about yours.
Okay. So the detective's there taking notes, and Miss Marple, of course, is like, out of my way, I know what happened. So she's sitting down, and she's like trying to give the information of when they found the body, which was about 6:45.
Okay.
So if Miss Sanders arrived back at 6:30, it was about a 15-minute period in which she was killed. And she was killed by a sandbag, which Miss Marple says is a very common weapon, I guess. So I just think about like how
a
awful.
Sandbag.
Yeah, like just slamming her head with a sandbag. That would be really messy, and I think you'd hear screaming, and you'd hear like a bunch of like tumbling and fighting. Like that just doesn't seem like it'd be so clean.
Yeah, I mean, they're just walking down the hall with a 30-pound sandbag. Like I don't understand.
Right. I don't know how big this thing is. I'm thinking like a tight or something with sand in it.
Sure, but
whack. Yeah, in a perfect world. I mean, she's got a small head, Miss Sanders, but it's not that small. Because do you remember how when they found her body, she was face down and her hat was on?
Yes.
Well, now when the detective's in there, he notices that the hat is off.
Okay.
And the sandbag is next to the hat. So Miss Marple said, but wait, when I was in here earlier, the first time before we called y'all in, that hat was on.
That feels like some staging.
Right. So they've come to the conclusion that something happened in that period from when they found the body to calling the detective. So apparently somebody had come in through the balcony at that time and maybe stolen some earrings and the necklace on her, but also the hat was removed because something was different. There was no more jewelry around, so something was stolen in the middle. And there is the case of like somehow the closet door is locked and nobody has access to it. So these little details that kind of play a little bit of importance, but also don't, because Miss Marple's also trying to include her friends in the dinner party to help engage and guess what's happening.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like, can you guess why all these details are so? And they're all kind of like, no. Yeah, even the they're like, okay, well we know that the husband killed her, and she's like, yes, I was right about that, sort of. And they're like, what? Like, can you just tell us like what you're getting at, because we're not following, lady. So so basically the timing is what the husband really tried to toy with here, because you have to have an alibi, right?
Sure.
So the alibi was that, I'm not going to tell this as cleanly as Miss Marple because she does such a good job of really laying the order.
She couldn't possibly tell it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. I could. Don't make me sing. So basically, when everybody rushed up there to find the dead body of Miss Sanders, it wasn't Miss Sanders.
Oh.
So Miss Sanders had gotten a call while she was at the bridge tournament by this man named Mr. Lloyd. And
Okay.
she was all excited to leave, and she told the guests, I have to go see Mr. Lloyd. No one knew who Mr. Lloyd was. I don't even know who these bridge players were, but they knew
Yeah.
her and they did not know Mr. Lloyd. So they're
Okay.
thinking, okay, so she's got to go meet her mister or whatever. Like she's
Okay.
got something on the side, right? So the person that called her was actually her husband,
All right.
and he told her to meet him at the fire escape of the hydro by 6:30. So she's down there hanging out all the way until like 6:45 ish when everybody rushes up to find her body. So when they run upstairs to find her body, she's actually downstairs outside
Okay.
waiting for her husband. But her husband's upstairs in the room saying, "Look at my dead wife here." So can you guess who the dead body was?
Who do we have?
It's the
Is it the
maid.
maid?
Yes. And the maid's
Oh,
room is right next to their room. So
that's clever.
basically, what he did was he created this fake alibi of like being in the room, finding her body, being out with the billiard people during all this time. All that timing all matches up.
Yeah.
But he had actually, like, before he left, dragged her. Or no, actually, this is so he'd like prepared this room before everybody left. He put the dead girl on the floor with her hat on and all that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then when everybody ran down to go call the police, he went to go meet his wife like he told her he would at like 6:45, brought her upstairs to
Right.
the
Okay.
bedroom through the
Okay.
balcony, oddly. I think they had like a romantic, like, let's sneak in
Oh,
sort of
sure.
thing. They saw the dead body there. She was leaning over looking at the maid, then he killed her. So now there's two dead girls in the room.
Right.
So then he
That's too
dresses his
many. Okay.
wife. Yeah, he dresses his wife like the maid, except the hat wouldn't fit because they have different size heads. So he had to put the
Oh,
hat next to the side and
okay.
didn't have time to switch over the jewelry and everything. And then all of a sudden, this lady that's in the dinner party is like, "Well, wait, what about the cabinet that's locked?" And she goes, "Very good question." But there's really nothing to it because the lady had actually put the key in her purse and was trying to
Okay.
keep her husband out of the cabinet because she was making a Christmas present for him.
There, Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas. You finally
that's
said
where it
it.
comes in.
You
Yeah,
finally said it.
I
Wow.
said it. So
What a Christmas tragedy. That's
there's yeah, there's all those details of I think it's it's kind of interesting just being like, so we know who the killer is, but we don't know the exact details of it,
yeah.
and it's actually a little bit more convoluted. We're using a what is it called when you use kind of like a decoy
Oh, sure.
body, playing with
Yeah.
timing to make sure that the alibi
Yeah. There's
really
a lot of
matches
corpse
up.
play in this short
A
story
lot of
for
corpse
sure.
play, a lot of dead bodies in this
Yeah.
house. So
Yeah.
I think basically what ends up happening, they're like, "Well, what happened to Mr. Sanders?" And she said, "He was hanged. Very well, I might add." And she's like, and I get much satisfaction out of thinking that he's dead, but I do feel bad that I didn't tell the girl. And then she's like, but she wouldn't have believed me because she was in wedded bliss. So at least she died when she was happy instead of being miserable and dying.
Hmm.
That's basically what she said.
Huh. Well, what a silver lining.
And then there's a
That's
really,
great.
really weird moment at the very last minute. And it's
Okay.
like one of the women at the party, Jane Hellier, who was the one who earlier said something about, like, I have a story about men giving me flowers and presents and just being sort
Oh
of
yeah.
like the dippy little,
Yes.
the fluff sort of character in the story. And she says something like, well, I think that basically, what I think she's alluding to is like, I think my husband's trying to kill me. And she kind of has this last little moment with Miss Marple where she's like, well, that can really relate to, and Miss Marple says, I know, or something like that. So I think it's alluding to the fact that, like, you better watch your husband, lady.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. This is like a loose. This is the Tuesday nightclub, right? Did they say that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
you're
So that's
right.
like. So that probably those little threads will be picked up in other shorts that have those people.
Oh,
I would assume. I
through
don't know. I
line
haven't read
sort
any
of
of those.
series.
I haven't read any of those.
Do you
So
know what the Tuesday Night Club was?
I think it was just like a dinner table conversation stuff. I think that was the like
A series of stories though that's
this group
called the
of
Tuesday.
people would yeah this group of people would get together like within the story, and then stories would come up, and different
Yeah. So
people
they
would
probably
play
all
different
do tell
roles.
a story at a certain point.
Yeah. I think that is the gimmick of those. All right, so we know the gist here, but the real villains here are, well, I guess it depends on how you looked at it. But the Cranes, who own the gallery, were kind of the masterminds. They were like, we got all this swanky art hanging on walls, and these people don't care, and we can swap it out with fakes, and they'll never know. They'll just pass it while they're going to the bathroom or whatever. They don't care. And so they need somebody to be in a position to get into these places. So they get this web of starting with Simon/Rudy and Angel and other people who are kind of like part of this plot to get these paintings from these famous people. So Simon/Rudy, when he's assigned to Baby D, gets sloppy. He kind of underestimates Baby D, and he's like, she's not with it. She won't know if I'm taking paintings and stuff. Although Baby D figures it out. She catches him in the act, and she's like, "You're fired." And then he panics and kills her. And that's it. He's like, "I'll just kill her, and then I'll take the paintings anyway." Well, that's when they need a second man, so that's how Angel gets roped into this. He's kind of like, "All right, Rudy/Simon messed this up, so Angel, you come in back, clean up. We still need somebody on the inside." And that pretty much closes the case.
So it was Simon.
Yeah, he pulled the trigger. He killed them, but he was kind of working for the Canes in the gallery. Sure. Yeah. So we get a real weird scene after this. And I got to tell you, I read this 5 times. Like, now, no joke, trying to figure out where are this? Like, who are these people? Because it doesn't say like, a week later or whatever, but it's just Moncrief decides he's going to cut an old-fashioned Christmas tree. So he goes like down into the woods, and when he's heading out there, another guy who's eventually identified as a cop congratulates him on the case, and he's kind of like, "So you and Kay Burke, what's the sitch there? You guys friends? You more than friends?" Yeah. And Moncrief's kind of like, "Oh, well, who knows what fate holds?" And he's like, "But, I don't know." And the cop was like, "Well, I asked her, and she said you guys were friends, but then she said I should ask you what you think." And he's like, "Oh, maybe there is more." And so it's kind of lingering in the air. So anyway, he goes back to cutting the tree, and Kay Burke notices that he's cutting down this tree. Again, I don't know where they are or when this is.
Like, you can't just be cutting down trees in New York City.
I know. Like, who are you, Robert Kennedy? Like, you can't just do whatever you want in Central Park. So they're cutting. She notices him cutting down this tree, and he's like, "Kay Burke," he puts a bow on it. "This is a gift for you." She's touched, and she begins to cry. And you know what? Maybe there is something more between the two of them. Maybe he's ready to love again.
When was he not ready to love?
Because remember, his girlfriend was murdered in the first book.
Oh, right.
And so he's still been kind of like, "Dahlia," Okay, but here's the real twist. There are 70 more pages in this book.
Wait, what? This isn't over?
No, I mean, I'm not going to tell you about the rest of them because they are irrelevant to the story. But there are 70 more pages in this book. And I feel like maybe they were originally going to split this into 4 and felt like this Christmas one was a little light. And so they just tacked it on. But in brief, Moncrief gets word that his father has died. And he and his father are estranged. His father's like this uber millionaire in France who's like, this very public figure, worked with pharmaceuticals and everything. So he and Kay Burke go to France to deal with his father's funeral, and it's all kind of about his weird relationship with his father and his father's protege. And it's interesting, but it has nothing to do with the Christmas mystery like this first plot. And it
Does it have anything to do with the next book?
No.
Oh my
No. God. The only thing that carries over is that like he's richer. Like he has his father's inheritance, so he's kind of playing like, now I'm a super rich French cop in New York.
Why is he even in America being a detective? Just because
I don't know.
Wants to?
I don't know. And honestly, I read all 3 of these, and they are collected. Like, you can read the whole thing in a collection called The Paris Detective. But it doesn't make sense. Like, the cases in all 3 of them aren't particularly good or well plotted. But I do like the characters. And honestly, the stuff with him processing his father's death and everything was maybe the most interesting thing that happened in all 3 of the books. But it should have been its own short story or something, or they should have expanded it a little bit more and given it a reason to exist. But like, it was so weird.
So you really think that like they're just like, this is too short to even publish with this Christmas story, so we need more. Why don't they just add more details to the case? Because I feel like even the case itself was a little anticlimactic. Like,
it really was. Well, I think if you could have made these things happening at the same time, like he's doing.
Right. He's doing that in a little bit better
thing, yeah, and like he goes to France for his father's funeral, but also can kind of connect with the French art world or something.
Yeah,
like they definitely,
there you go.
They could have meshed these 2 plots and had it sort of be like the relationship between Burke and Moncrief is growing. He's processing his father, so maybe that's why he's a little crazy about this case and refusing to work with, there's lots of things
Right.
that could be done. And at the end of the day, like I don't dislike any of them. I thought the third was the worst, but like they were such harmless little reads, and I felt like Moncrief and Kay Burke were good, and I thought that their sexual tension, I guess you'd say, was not over the top, and it also wasn't obnoxious. It was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, they could, but they don't have to. And so I felt like I kind of liked the personal stuff more than I ever liked any of the mystery stuff. How did you like yours?
Well, it's interesting. I think, listening to you talk about yours is like I feel like we both wrote actual like literary, like good, better literature. I guess I'd say like I was telling you before, I'm used to reading kind of fluffy, easy to
Hmm.
understand stories, and this one I actually had to really think about. And obviously, it's by Agatha Christie, who is one of our all-time greats. So I think we chose like actual good literature to talk about this time, which was fun. And yours from James Patterson, obviously. What did I think about mine? I thought it was great. I thought like it actually made me think and made me pay attention. I had to really I had to listen to it twice to kind of get some details and stuff. Just like I
Okay.
said, it's just a different way of storytelling that we don't,
Yeah.
utilize anymore. So having to hear Miss Marple be coy, but also like self-deprecating and like saying like I'm not perfect and I didn't get these details right. Like the detective actually figured out the crux of the story. Like she's saying even it was kind of a good lesson that she said like even the proudest and like the people that are the best at their jobs have to admit when they're when they fail a bit. And so she's saying that like I did not solve this crime and I actually failed to like keep somebody alive, but I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Like she was like it had a pretty good lesson, and I'm really happy that I've actually kind of dove into an Agatha Christie that wasn't one of the mousetraps, unexpected guest,
Yeah.
Murder on the Orient Express. So
Hmm.
I think like knowing that there's this sort of subgenre of Tuesday night club stories is kind of cute, and I think we need to be in our Agatha Christie era these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a big favorite of mine, but it is always like there's always stuff to pull apart and like really get into and looking at people's motives and stuff.
Well, and I
So
like the whole I like kind of the universe she's created,
yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
she has Miss Marple, Henry Poirot, and I'm sure that some of these characters I've heard of before and they pop up in other stories. Like I'm sure there's a certain through line that she had, which I think is very clever for the time.
Yeah.
So I'm into that whole like Marvel universe, Christie
Yeah.
universe sort of idea.
Her earliest stuff is I want to say like the 1920s, and her last novel, which is a Tommy and Tuppence, was late 70s, like the late
Wow.
1970s. So it was like a 50-year career, and obviously storied and many awards. Is an award named after her, for heaven's sakes?
I think she definitely scratched the itch of our cozy mystery thing. I like the
Yeah.
drawing room murder mystery stuff, but it was not at Christmas.
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah.
nothing Christmas in there except for the fact that the woman was making a gift for her husband in the.
Mine was more Thanksgiving than anything,
Oh, true.
because there was a lot about Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And the Christmas tree is cut. And then, like, sort of after the father's funeral, they're like, oh, it's Christmas. But it's so tacked on that it really, to me, feels like, because they never, all the stuff they're doing, they're never like, it's snowy. It's not, is nothing. There's nothing in there. So,
It's probably easy to like take these ideas and just be like, oh God, we need this around Christmas time, so make it
yeah.
Christmas.
Well,
So
I mean, just looking at the names, French Kiss, French Twist, and the Christmas Mystery, like definitely there was another title for this book at some point. So
Christmas
I'm sure that's
tragedy.
true.
I mean, it couldn't be more vague.
Yeah. And I think, the Luke Moncreff series is only literature as compared to the Donut books that I've read in the past. Because it still would say it's not very good, but it was enjoyable enough. And I mean, I did read all three of them.
Yeah, and you said you actually like the character development or
I
the
did like the
relationship,
character.
so that
Yeah.
spoke to something.
Yeah, these came out between 2016 and 2017. But if there was a book, they were like, "Hey, there's a new Luke Moncrief novel," I would probably pick it up.
Yeah, I got to see what Luke's doing, how he's processed
Yeah, I
his
gotta know.
death of his father.
I have to know. Do you think that you would read more Agatha Christie, like if just for funsies?
Would I read more Agatha Christie? Of course I would. I think like she's timeless, and I think it's important to carry on her legacy and everything. So I think for anybody that's interested in reading should read anything Agatha Christie. I always recommend her. I love her plays, and I
Oh yeah.
really thought that she did a good job of telling this dang story. And I mean, I'm sure like she had to be pumping out content left and right, and for her to come
Oh
up with these
yeah.
clever ideas
Oh
is
yeah.
she's good at it. She's really good
Yep.
at this intrigue.
Yep. This didn't scratch the Christmas itch, but discussing it with
Right.
you, of course, is a Christmas tradition. So I'm right back in it. Pour me some eggnog because I'm here.
We're cozy Christmas bros. What can I say?
Yeah, I know. Do you think there's another Nutcracker return in your future? Is that yet to be written?
Well, let's see. So last time I did three Nutcracker Princes, and
Yeah.
I'm in my uncle era for
Okay.
quite some time now. So
All right.
I would
We'll check
love
back.
to come back.
We'll
Yeah.
check back. Okay. Well, as always, great to talk to you. I'm glad that you enjoyed your Agatha Christie, and I don't know what I read, but it was a journey, and we reached the end.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for inspiring me to continue reading or listening to people
Anytime.
reading to me.
That's literally my job. So I'm just going to clock out right now because I've
Well,
succeeded.
yeah, I'd say, go enjoy your holidays. You're off for the rest of the
Okay.
enjoy some peace
That's right.
before you dive into next year.
Peace on earth. That's the holiday thing. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.